Nipun, what do you think is a brand? Like let's not go into how to build a brand immediately, but if I ask you that, have you seen any law firm or lawyer doing great work at building a brand? And if you can tell us one story about that, and because I know you have dealt with hundreds of clients, so from your experience, you can share one great story. What would that?
Okay. So, what is a brand? I will say, if you ask me as somebody who's been in the industry, I would say a brand for a lawyer or a law firm is the entire ecosystem of perception. And when I say ecosystem of perception, I second what Ramanuj said over here, that it's not what I feel about my firm or what I want to portray about my firm. The true test of my brand is how am I being talked about or what is moving about in the circles about me. I'll give you small instances without taking names, obviously, but there are firms uh, who may be paying extremely well to their lawyers, but we are all aware of the extremely bad work-life balance those firms offer to their people. Now, is there attrition in those firms? The answer is yes. Are they still able to recruit? The answer is yes. Are they still amongst the top firms? The answer to that also is yes. So what we are trying to say over here is, how are you perceived in peers, in your clients, in your past clients, in the legal publications, in senior counsels and external counsels, in students, in people who may be wanting to your possible tomorrow future employees. All of those, what they think about your firm, and which is, mind you, built on a lot of factors, which there are also a lot of firms who are spoken about saying that they have fabulous clientele, but it's a churning process. They get 10 new clients and they lose 5 to 6 clients, so the cycle keeps on going. So yes, the revenues are not impacted because they are onboarding new clients, older clients leave, so there is a cycle process that completely going on. And on the contrary, there are firms who have retained their clients perhaps from the day one when they started. So how is all of this being still carried on? The answer is that a lot of times there is a goodwill, there is a perception which is attached to your brand, which makes up for everything. But I'll come back to from where I started the conversation when I said there is no better brand than knowledge. So when we talk about professionals also, there is a concept of a performance T. We call it a performance T. And why we call it as a T is like a tree. If you see, there is a branch, there is the lower portion of the tree, and then there is the upper portion and the branches. So if you see, a tree actually resembles the alphabet T. When I say the alphabet T, the T stands for technical knowledge. As a lawyer, there is no substitute for technical knowledge. You cannot build a successful practice if you are not sound technically. So technical तो basic है, वो होना बहुत जरूरी है. Now, but what adds on? What is apart from the technical thing that you need to be a successful lawyer or to run a successful practice? I'll tell you those things also. Those things are client retention. Those things are business development. Those things are leadership. Those things are how well are you perceived in the circle. So if you see, in addition to the technical knowledge, there is also these 4 or 5 key factors which matter. If you do not know how to get more people or how to get more clients, then eventually the future work will dry on. You can't run your practice based on those limited mandates you have today or the limited cases you have today. So you have to bring more business. How will you bring more business? For bringing more business, the perception of your brand has to be solid. The reliability of clients to fall back on you. Let me say you've got a fabulous client, you've got a big mandate, but you fail to deliver. You are not living up to the timelines. You may be a very hardworking resource, but you have taken up the assignment and you do not have enough bandwidth to service that client. Do you think that the client is going to, again, if a client goes back with a bad experience, the client is going to come back to you again after and give you another chance? No. The patience level in today's world and the stakes are extremely high for them to give you a second chance. So when I talk about branding, I say all what you do in the ecosystem matters. आप कितने अच्छे clients ला रहे हैं, आप कितने अच्छे clients तरीके से clients को service कर रहे हैं. How well are you servicing your clients? Depending from that, how well are you servicing your clients and how good are you at your work will automatically generate your rankings, will automatically improve your online perception, and which will in turn make you a thought leader in the area that you are willing to be portrayed as a specialist in.
Got it. So I wanted to, I understand, like, what you're talking about, providing good services and, client experience, delivering results. These are also cornerstones of one's brand. But can you give me, like, at least one story of where you saw that a law firm really worked on its brand, or a lawyer really worked on his or her brand, and it produced results? I mean, I think that's like, after saying everything, like, I think a story really you can relate to it and understand, how it really helps.
I'll tell you. So there is, we've all heard of this firm called Naik and Company. They are a renowned firm in the media sector, and for so many years, like I've interacted with them for last couple of years. But even back from several years, they have consistently been ranked as number one in the media field. Now, what built? How did they reach out there? I think first and foremost, the idea. They they picked up media laws at a time when the laws were still at the nascent stage. It wasn't very, it wasn't something that was extremely codified. There weren't too many players. So they chose a field of law in which there weren't too many players, and then they built an edge over it. Secondly, they built a team of extremely hardworking people who were willing to put in their heart, blood, and soul to the practice. But then that's true for a lot of firms who may be putting in that level of hard work, but still not being able to reap the benefits. So what worked in their favor, which could have not worked in others' favor, is a persistent effort to build the brand as the media law firm. And how it happened. Yes, year on year they were ranked. Why? Because they were diligent with the kind of submissions they were making to those international publications. Why the cream work started coming onto them is also from the dissemination and perception. Moving about in a circle where you will get clients. So, if it's events like Goa Film Bazaar, if it's events like Ficky Frames, they were all participating in those events and speaking and sharing their thought leadership because they were from the industry. They were somebody who were leading that practice area from the forefront. Then active dissemination. Even today, if you go and see their social media pages, they keep sharing the latest which is happening on the media laws, the copyright, and of course now they have diversified into several fields like international arbitration, real estate. So they are always on the top of their game when it comes to every recent development. So if a copyright registry has notified something, you will find it on their wall. If there is a change with respect to a government policy, or if Nirmala Sitharaman has today announced certain thing, they will have a quick snapshot of it and put on their media. Why is a firm that is already established, that doesn't perhaps even need that branding, why are they continuing with effort like this? The answer is, it is not about how satisfied I am with respect to what I have achieved or what I have gained. There is no end to updation, and there is no end to gathering and sharing knowledge, which is what I was referring to in the beginning also. So if a firm which is as established and as ranked as Naik and Company can continue the effort today to let the world know, yes, A, we are aware of what is happening in our circle, B, all those who are associated with us. So the social media is not a facade, and something which I think all of us agree today, even the biggest of influencers who are on social media, understand that influencing is not just an eyewash. Today, what rules and what is king even on social media is your content. If you are writing, really bad content over there, which lacks substance, which lacks knowledge, nobody's going to follow you beyond a point. People are all in the lack of time today. When I'm on my way back home and I'm scrolling through either LinkedIn or I'm scrolling through Facebook, they've all today become source of knowledge to us. A lot of times I am not aware of certain things that, let's say, a copyright media is saying, or I'm not aware of what new announcements have been made. But if I'm following the pages of all of these firms and I get to know small snippets which will be helpful for me in the long run, there my purpose is solved. So today, even in the media field, or whatever best cases they did, there was a huge hue and cry at the time of Padmavat, and they did the Padmavat case from the forefront, and the all the media covered it, and they were all out there covered in papers and or online media. What so do Let me ask the question again. For a firm of my stature, do I need that media? Because I'm already doing the best of the cases, I'm representing the best of the brands. So I don't need a social media today to build a reputation for myself. I am building it for the purpose of knowledge sharing, and that knowledge sharing is indirectly contributing to my brand. So my brand is being built through my knowledge. And as I said, that knowledge का कोई substitute है नहीं.
Nipun just wanted to add here that building a brand is not enough on its own. It's a continuous process, and wherever you leave vacuum, so it says that if you leave a vacuum, if you leave an empty space, then garbage will come in. So if you are not leading the conversation about your brand, if you're not leading the conversation of media law, then some other law firm will come and take that place. May or may not. Maybe eventually they will. But suddenly, from being the source of information for the industry, from being the leading light of that practice, I am ceding my space to somebody else potentially, right? And people, if they do not see me regularly, why do established brands keep running ads on the TV all the time? Why do Parle run ads? It's everywhere. Why do Coke? We have seen millions of ads of Coke. Why is it showing it again?
Yeah.
Because they want a share of our mind space, and that is pretty much what even lawyers have to do. Lawyers have to be on the mind space of the legal industry, of the client's industry, and that's something that most lawyers have not come to terms with. And the ones that have succeeded perhaps have realized it and have really understood and internalized it and has really acted on it. So interestingly, law firms people still understand law firms going about branding, law firms still doing things. What about litigators? Is it true that litigators don't need branding? Because a lot of litigators do not understand branding, and they say, okay, fine, if it is a law firm is doing branding, I'm into litigation, what branding for me? People have told me, litigators have told me that branding will backfire, because if I brand myself, then everybody will get jealous in the court, judges will get angry with me, and it will completely ruin my practice. This I have heard. The other thing that I just wanted to quickly mention that, Nike and Nike, because you mentioned Nike and Nike specifically, there are things that the things that they do to. I'm not saying they do it only for their branding, but for example, they have courses on media law with ILS, and people are coming in from all over India. They're coming and doing this diploma courses, etc., and they're doing a lot of lectures. The founders go around some preferred colleges in GLC, etc., and they're delivering lectures on media law. They are also, doing other things like publication, in-house publications on media law. I remember there was a time when we wrote an article on top media law firms in India, and they took it and retweeted it and thanked us and posted on their LinkedIn page. I mean, this continuous engagement is there. I mean, and the effort to share knowledge is tremendous. And education is also a great way that you get to build brands. If you're teaching people, and that's fantastic. So coming back to the litigator point, thanks to the Nike and Nike story, I think that's a great story. Also, I want to point out about Nike and Nike before we jump into litigators. I'm sorry for the switch. I have noticed that Nike and Nike is a law firm that has come from nowhere, started by very young lawyers. Within 7 to 10 years maximum, I would say they have come to this place. And this is a really fast rise. There are not too many similar examples of law firms from 2 people, 3 people law firm going into the best in the industry. If you ask what is the best media law firm, nobody even would say a big law firm. No one comes close. And in fact, we did a survey on IP law firms, top IP law firms. Several people mentioned Nike and Nike, and they are not an IP law firm, but the perception is so strong that it pervades into other areas of law as well, right?
Because copyright, and they are dominant on the copyright practice because of the infringement and all of these. So
Yes.
they are not into IP prosecution per se, but I think the perception because of the copyright work is so strong that they are counted as one of the biggest IP firms.
Correct. That's happened, but they have never branded themselves as a IP law firm. But people
Correct.
are saying, "Oh, top three IP law firms. One of them is Nike and Nike." That's crazy because they have never been known to be doing like the way they're known for their media law practice. They're not known for their IP law.